down forward 2, back 4, 1 3 forward. Confusing, right? So let's talk about that. Welcome back to another video on Tekken, and today I'm going to explain the notations of Tekken. Just the basics of it, not too complex, but I will just teach you just that so you can actually start off learning what is written down by a lot of Tekken players. Or maybe a friend of yours who's teaching you how to play Tekken. Or maybe when you're researching it. Why we use this is because we have different platforms we're playing on. For example, Xbox, the PlayStation, you have a PC, or arcade. Every interface is going to be a little bit different, like square, X, circle, and triangle on PlayStation, but on Xbox it would be like X, A, B, and Y. On PC it would be anything really, because you can keybind it. But to make it much easier for the Tekken players to explain what move we're doing, we just use the notations. So talking about the notations, let's get into it. The notations are based off your movement. So you can do movement with your left pad, which is your arrows, your buttons to move, or maybe your stick, which I'm using. For example, back, forward, down, up, sidestep, sidestep. And also down forward, down back, up forward, up back. These are all directional inputs. So that was a lot, I know. Let me explain it just easily. Depending on which way your character is facing, forward and back may switch around. Confusing? I get it. So if you're on player 1 side, which is left, your forward usually just will be right. If you're on the player 2 side, usually your forward will be left, and back will be the opposite side. So for me right now, on the left side, player 1, forward will be right, back will be left. On the other side, player 2 side, left will be forward now, because my character is facing that way, and right will be back. A few ways to remember this is, for example, player 1 will always go to the right to go forward, and player 2 will always go to the left to go forward. So their backs and forward will be switched around. Or you can also remember it, whichever way your character is facing your opponent to is the direction you need to use to go forward. And how I usually just remember it is just whichever way my character is facing, that's forward. So now that you know back and forward and how it will be swapped, we can cover the other inputs. So if you want to do down forward inputs, you need to press down and forward simultaneously. As you can see, I did it together. On the right you can see the input I did. And the same applies for down back. Just down and back simultaneously. And then again it applies to up back. Up and back simultaneously. And you have up forward, same thing. Up and forward simultaneously. Now that you know the general movements, there's one thing you still need to remember. Neutral. Neutral means no input for just a split second, like a frame, maybe 2 frames, maybe a little longer, but just no input whatsoever. Because there are more advanced movements, like a crouch dash or a wave dash, which is chained crouch dash basically, where you need to use it. And like with Kunimitsu, her crouch dash 2 basically, that's the input she does. So neutral is just after any input, you need to release every input. So don't press anything, don't do anything, no directional input, no face buttons, no attack, for just a split second. It's a little hard to explain by just telling you, but it is a little bit easier to explain my example. So let me give you an example in very slow motion. So a crouch dash I will do, which you cannot see her do because Kunimitsu has no real crouch dash move in game, just an attack. For her it will be forward, neutral, where I don't hold the stick, down and then down forward, and that's it. That's the crouch dash input. As you can see on the right side, you can see a space right after forward inputs, and then you see down and down forward right after one another. meaning there's just a little space, just a little time when there is no input. And that's how you do a crouch dash input. So for Kunimitsu, it will be this, as you can see. So now we can start with the limbs, because we haven't touched it yet. Each limb has a face button. So if you press your 1 input, it will be the left arm of your character that's being used. So press your 1 input. It will be probably square or X on Xbox controller. On arcade stick, it will be the first button on the left top corner. Right next to it, there will be another button. If you press that, that's your 2. That's the right arm. As you can see, I'm using the right arm. And you can see in the command history as well. So if you are using the Xbox layout, it's gonna be blue for 1, yellow for 2. Then you have 3, which is the left kick, which is right underneath your left punch. If you're using arcade stick, and if you're using controller, you have to turn it around just slightly, ever so slightly, that your square on PlayStation controller is right above your X, and on your Xbox controller, your X is right above your A input, because A is your 3, your left kick, and X or cross on PlayStation controller, that's your left kick. So if I do that now, you can see her left leg is being used. That's green on my screen because I'm using the Xbox layout. And then last but not least, the right kick will be the last button. So there will be circle or B, or maybe another button on your keyboard, or arcade stick, or Mixbox, or a hitbox. So that will be this. For me, it's red, maybe a little bit pinkish. Okay, now that we know 1, 2, 3, and 4, what these stand for, each limb of your body, you can combine them. For example, if you want to do a throw, generic throw we call this, you can do 2 plus 4. The plus stands for just doing it simultaneously. The input before the plus and right after the plus, you do it simultaneously, so don't do it one after another, you have to press it together. The 2 plus 4, as you can see, you will see in my comment history, one of those squares with all the circles, or the buttons, that has 2 colored buttons, yellow and red in my case. That is gonna be your 2 and 4 input, your right arm and right kick. You can do this throw. And you can also do 1 plus 3, which is your left arm and your left kick being pressed simultaneously. Also a throw. Also 1 plus 2, which is both arms. In Kunimitsu's case, this will be a stance. And you also have 3 plus 4, that is both legs simultaneously. You can combine any of these buttons together, depending on which character you're playing. It can be either a taunt, maybe a key charge, if you're pressing everything together. So like this, I'm pressing 1, 2, 3 and 4 simultaneously, and there will be a key charge. For example, a taunt will be 1 plus 3 plus 4 in Kunimitsu's case, but she has 2 taunts, and this as well, which is 2 plus 3 plus 4. Depending on which character you're playing, you may not even have a taunt. So now we have talked about movements, and we have talked about the face buttons for each limb. You can combine it. Let's say if I say down forward, which is the directional input, down and forward together simultaneously, and 2, downward plus 2 or downward 2, depends on how you want to write it, how you want to say it. It's the same thing. Downward 2 means you have to do down forward, and you have to press 2 simultaneously. If you do it correct and you're playing Kunimitsu in this case, then you should be able to do this. If you do it improper, You're probably fully crouching and then doing this. So make sure you turn on command history by going here, press on command history, and then click on display. This way you can actually see if you're doing the input correct. So now, how do we read an entire string of these numbers and letters? Basically, when there is a comma, you will read it as a separate input. So basically, if I say down forward 2, back 4, 1, 3, then you have 4 different inputs, like down forward 2, back 4, 1, and 3. Now we need to learn how to chain it properly, and that will take practice. Because in my case, this will be for Kunimitsu, this, and that's a startup for a combo. But I won't teach you combos, that's not important right now. What's important is just to know what these inputs mean, these notations. And yes, I may not have done a great job at it, at explaining it, so I recommend you to rewatch and just practice with me and to see how this actually works. What you can also do, what I would recommend you to do, is go to the move list of your character, and then you can press the button where it says help. There you can see what these inputs mean. For example, left punch, left kick, and right kick. So if you're on another interface than I am, you will still see the same inputs just with different colors. And if you press the button, any button in game, you'll see which input it corresponds to. For example, 1 will be your left punch, it's always your left punch. So 1 will always be the left top corner of your face buttons in your command history. And right punch will be always your right top corner. And then you will have your left kick, which will be on the left, at the bottom, you can see. And then you have your right kick, which will always be on the right bottom. So it does make sense if you look at the command history. Because on the top of your body you have your left and right arm, and on the bottom of your body you have your left and right leg. So just remember like that. That is a body. Left and right will be separated, and bottom and top will be separated as well. So I still haven't talked about quarter circle forward or quarter circle back, half circle forward, half circle back, and full circle. So how do we do a full circle in this game? So basically, it is every single directional input you can use. As you can see the command history, you can see me using forward, up, back, down, down forward, and forward. That's a full circle. So a quarter circle will be just a quarter of that circle I just did. So let's say with Kunimitsu you want to do your kunai throw. What you need to do is you need to do quarter circle forward plus 1, or how I like to say it, it's quarter circle forward 1. What you need to do is remember, quarter circle means just a quarter of a circle, and the last letter will determine which direction you will go to. So forward is the ending, quarter circle forward. It means I have to start from down, then I have to slip to down forward, and then forward without a neutral. So I need to do it all consecutively like this, and I need to do it quick. If you get comfortable with it, you can do it really quick, so you don't get into crouched. And that's important for these movements, because otherwise you will be doing something like this, and then you may not be quick enough. As you can see, I did the input, but I messed up because I was too slow. If I do it properly, I should be able to do this. As you can see, I did the kunai throw. Got too slow, or I don't press it simultaneously, as you can see. So I did quarter circle forward 1 instead of quarter circle forward plus 1. The plus, you can see, if you press it together, your directional input and your face button, your limb, you can see the directional input right on top of your face button input. So right now you can see a space in between my forward and my 1. Let's say I want to do forward 1. Right now you can see there is an arrow to the right above my 1. That means I have done it and pressed it together at that specific frame. So for quarter circle forward 1 with Kunimitsu, I need to press it together here at the very end. And quarter circle back will be basically the same. You start with down, down back, back, and then the input whatever you need to use. For Yoshimitsu you would want to use, for example, quarter circle back 1 plus 2. Then last but not least, you still have the half circles. It's pretty much the same thing as quarter circles, but just twice the quarter circle. So basically what I'm saying here, it was really stupid to say it like that, is you have to start from the opposite way of which you're ending with. You always start going downwards. So if I have to do half circle forward, I start with back, down, down forward, forward. And again, you have to do this relatively quick to do it properly. I'm not great at this, so don't mind my mistakes. I don't do this too often. And if you have to do a half circle back, it's from the front, so forward input all the way to back, and you have to go forward, down, back, back to do the input. I get this is complex and this can be a lot, and maybe this was not the right take of me to actually teach you this, but I think it's still important to know because there are characters that rely on it, and skipping that would be a big problem maybe for those characters. I don't particularly play with characters that have half circle inputs or full circle inputs, but I do play characters with quarter circle inputs or crouch dash inputs, and you still need to use it. The crouch dash will be just forward, neutral, down, forward. Other than that, we still have a few movements left to cover. I know this is a lot, and I know this can be exhausting, so please take your break, pause the video and replay it and just practice it in practice mode a little bit to just start understanding what's actually happening. While rising will be written down as while standing, so WS, because WR is used for while running. I'll cover both of them right now. So while standing is basically if you're crouching and you release it. That's while standing. So basically the moment you release your crouch, when you're standing up, that's while standing, you can have a certain few amounts of abilities, different than when you're fully standing or fully crouched. So for example, tree. I will use my tree button because this can be very important for, let's say, Kunimitsu players. For other players it will be maybe 2, probably 2. So tree. When I'm just normally standing like this, I press tree. Just a high kick like this. And a spinny high kick. If I'm fully crouched and I do tree, it's just this, low. But what if I do a while standing tree? So I am fully crouched and I release my crouch. The moment I release my crouch, I press the input I want to do. So don't wait too long, just right after you release your down input, you have to press it. And you do this. That was my while standing tree. For Kunimitsu that's very important because it's a launcher. But for most characters it will be while standing 2. So let's say you're playing anyone other than Kunimitsu. Pretty much anyone other than Kunimitsu, except a few like Kazuya, cannot do a while standing 2. So while standing 2 is very good to remember. Fully crouched, and the moment you release crouch, you press 2. As you can see, Kazumi can do a while standing 2 launcher, but not a while standing 3. But in general, you would use while standing 3 as your launcher, because this actually launches right after it, and you can do just a combo. Now, while running, what is that? While running is basically you have to press forward twice, or you have to stand quite far away and you have to press forward twice and hold it. That's while running. So you're just running basically. Then you can do a move like Kunimitsu. You have 2 moves, that's while running 3 and while running 2. While running 3 for Kunimitsu will be this. The while running 2 is this. So you have a forward 2, forward 2, which is basically dash, and you have a triple forward input that's while running 2. is that. The final thing I will tell you is the difference between a hold and a tap. If you see an input like up, but you see a capital U for it, then you will have to hold it. So every letter that is capital means hold. You can have moves that have holds in it. For example, for Kunimitsu you have your forward 4, where you can hold your forward. So this is normal forward 4. There was just a tap with forward and 4 simultaneously, and then instantly release my forward input as well. But what if I hold my forward? It goes into stance, your set stance. So you can write it down like capital F4, and then you have a squirty line, and then F. It depends on how you want to write it down. Some people write it down just capital F4, and some just F4 curly line, whatever, and then F. Pretty much means the same, as far as I know. I could be wrong. Tell me in the comments if I'm wrong, but people use it like that, so that's how I picked it up. I usually write it down like F, so it's all lowercase, F4 squirty line F. To actually just tell you, after the forward 4 input you need to still tap or just hold F. Usually I just hold it. Guustavv, same thing, you can do a fly stance. So let's go to Guustavv by tapping forward 3. That's the knee, but you can just hold it, the forward, to keep being in their stance, to go into their stance, actually, a fly stance. And I don't know how it is for other characters. I didn't really delve into their move list, so I hope I'm not saying anything that's stupid. But as far as I know, with the characters I play, it's just holding forward. So basically that will do for this video. I know it's very long and very complex. Just take your time to learn this and practice it yourself. This video is not gonna help you if you don't practice. You really need to practice and figure it out for yourself. To do that. And another tip, not about notations, this is just about practice, because I see a lot of people don't practice properly, or at least don't practice at all, how to defeat any character you're fighting. So player 1, or whatever side you're playing as, select your character, and the other character will be the character you're going to lab, so meaning you will have to practice against. What you're going to do is go to punishment training then. Here select one move specifically and then play it. It will show you what the recommended punish will be. Up forward 3-4 that you will learn. This is just a side tip, it's a side note, tip, whatever. So you can actually learn how to do this, because I've seen a lot of new players who I've met recently don't use this, and it's actually super useful. So I would recommend you try this. This way you also learn how to block properly. So by holding back you will block mid and highs, and if you hold down back you will block only lows. Highs will miss you completely and mids will still hit you. But that's the difference between blocking your high mids and your lows. That's also important to know, so that's why I tell you in this video. Doesn't really make sense to actually tell it here, but whatever. I think it's useful. Hope you like this video. Don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends if you think it's very useful. Leave a comment down below if you have ideas or maybe some feedback for me, because I still need to learn how to make guides and tutorials properly. I try, because I actually promised my friends and a few people that I would make this video, even though it was very difficult for me actually to make this. Despite understanding how it works, it's so hard to explain it to people. So I'm by no means good at this. So don't be too harsh, please. Other than that, I also stream on Twitch. You can see all the links down below and you can just follow me there. I make videos on Tekken and Blade & Soul, mostly Blade & Soul. So if you are into that, please follow me. It will show YouTube that I am doing a good job, hopefully. And like the video as well, so it can be shared with more people. And they can be taught how to read the notations in this case. Hope to see you in the next video. Peace.